Good morning, it's Phil. I am the Down Under Maker. How is everybody today? Okay, let's get straight into the stream and say a few things and sort out my hair because it's all over the place. Not worth worrying about. Okay, last week, it sucked. Yes, I had some content to switch over to, but I should never have been in that position. I should have read ahead in the manual a bit more deeply than I had done. Had I gone ahead in the manual and read up properly like I should have done, I would have realized a whole bunch of stuff which I found out during the week, including the fact that when you get the 3D Sets Roady truck, it doesn't come with the tipper files. But what it does do is it comes with access to the Rocky Dumper as well. So you're basically getting a 2-for-1. You can actually build both of them because you get both full sets of files. So don't buy the Rocky Dumper, people. Buy the Roady. Get the Rocky free, because then you get both rather than having to pay for both. So when I got all that sorted out, which was 2 days ago my time, that made life a little simpler and also made a few things fall into place. As we go through the instruction manual, you'll see why I got awfully confused and I had to speak to the 3D Sets people to get this all fixed and sorted out. Other things. I am now trying to print all of the stuff way ahead of schedule, but that's going to take some catching up. As you can see behind me, the Ender 5 is going absolutely off its brain, printing as fast as it can. That has been a mission in and of itself. Let me switch over to a different view and I shall show you. Okay. This was my first go. Ignore the shiny bit here. It's not showing up as well as it does in real life, but you can see here there's some really light blue areas where it was just imperfections, it looked like, on this print. It turns out it was under extrusion. I started realizing it was under extrusions on the next go, where, let's go over to this one. You can see it quite clearly here. It's under extruding exceedingly badly. I thought, okay, maybe it's the filament. I gave it one more shot. It was better, but it's still under extruded and it got worse and worse and worse as the print went on. Swap filament. Different blue, but it was the same color scheme that I wanted, so it was close enough. And under extrusion again. Tried a lot of things. Played with settings. Looks like somebody's talking to me, but it's not showing up. Oh, hi, Brad. I can just make out it's you on my screen. Let me bring up my chat properly. I'll worry about it in a minute. So yeah, it was under extruding. Then overnight, just to give it one last chance, I tried again. Check this out. I couldn't have printed a lighter model if I wanted to. It's flexy. It's see-through. And somehow it managed to stay together and not actually go to complete bird's nest on me. But yeah, that was... yeah. It starts out all right for the first few layers, and then it just gets worse and worse and worse as time goes by. I tried cleaning the extruder between the first bunch of prints and then that... oh, hi, Killer Prince, how are you? So I tried cleaning the extruder between the most of the prints and then that last bird's nest set. And somebody else is here. Let me just bring all this up so I can see it a bit better. That is Nick Nick. Hi, Nick Nick. Yeah, air-conditioned parts. Very good description. So I have been using on my Enders this. They are really good extruders. I need to go back to that one. And really good extruders. H2V2S Revo. I pulled it. I pulled the other one. I pulled this one apart. This is the one I've pulled apart. Can you see that coming out? It's just full of crap, and that's after just one set of prints. So something's going on in there, and it was just not gripping the filament. It's not pulling it through. So I had a spare H2V2 sitting in a drawer that I won in a competition on Big Tree Tech's website. So I just simply grabbed it out, swapped the whole thing in, put the Revo nozzle into it, and it's now printing. So far, it's looking clean and crisp. Let me see if I can bring you along with me to see a bit closer. Vitamins, no. It's the Big Tree Tech extruder. It's just something they developed. So far, so good. And even the bridging is good. So you might not be able to see at the front as well as I can see it in real life. But that very front is actually bridged 5 centimeters. And that's just on an end of 5, guys. So, yeah. Hopefully we have things back on track and printing as they're supposed to be. If we want, if we get to a point in the stream, we can do a teardown on this so you can see what's inside. They're pretty simple inside, and it feels like it should work. It works like it should work for the first couple of layers, and then it just goes to crap. So hopefully this replacement unit will just get through what we need to do, and I can worry about the long-term plan. Adrian, how are you? You missed the first couple of minutes. In a nutshell, I was printing the tray parts, and they kept getting worse and worse and worse until we ended up with what basically looks like that camera. What looks like a bird's nest. You can see right through the prints. So we've replaced the extruder, and we're gonna go from there. Now, hands plus me, that's probably a better shot. Where are we up to? Last week we aborted because I realized I hadn't printed all the parts. I'm going to show you something on the instruction manual so that you can understand why I was getting confused. They have all these orange pages, and you print the plates, and you can use those plates, and that's what you need to do the next section. I thought I had done all that, except a lot of these plates don't actually match what the printable plates are in the files. So, yeah. And especially when you get to, where are we? So keep a note of what you're seeing here. Plates 4, 5, 6, 7. Scrolling through, scrolling through, scrolling through. Lots of wheels. I'm trying to get to the part with the tipper. Come on. So there we go. Scrolling faster again. Tipper is near the end. There we go. Tipper. All of a sudden you see print 6 and print 7 contain those parts, and they don't. That's where a lot of the confusion comes in. I think what's happened is the English translation of the manual, they've copied and pasted the Rocky Dumper pages, and the Rocky files match this, not the Roady files. So that's where all this confusion and hassle and stress came in for me. And the reason I didn't have all the parts on hand was I printed the plates as per the manual, not understanding that those parts weren't all there. So where are we up to? Let's jump back so you can see me and my paws. There. So where we were up to is we had managed to assemble the first section, but then we were missing this part. That lighting's not very good, is it? Let's try. My overhead camera just doesn't really work as well as it could do, and I can't do an awful lot about it, I don't think. Let's try properties. Filters. Add a filter. Color correction. No. it just looks washed out if I'm not careful. I'm going to need to replace the overhead camera at some stage, but once I've got a bit more cash. Okay, so that's a bit better. This part was missing. That was our stumbling block. We couldn't then move on and do more assembly because we didn't have this part because we didn't know we needed to print this part. So yeah, that looks like we've got a bearded printer who's joined us, and it looks like maybe somebody else as well. Still Nick. Maybe a set screw got loose. There's no set screws in there, Nick. No set screws in the extruder. Well, there is one, but it's very definitely locked tight and it's not coming out. It's factory installed. So what we need to do is we need to move on. The other part that we needed to do was, let's go back to the manual. Can't see my mouse, I don't think. There's the gray steps. There we go. These gray steps, they weren't fitting because I'd in order to get everything to print at true real life size, I have to do a very minor scaling adjustment in my slicer. I then printed all of these gray parts at once, and the steps failed. I then moved them to a noose print, and then not thinking about it, I rescaled them again. So I effectively applied the scaling twice, which meant they didn't fit anymore. So that's where we got stuck. So let's get to the part of the manual where we're at. This bit. So manual part 12 is put all those screws in. We worked out that I put some screws in the wrong spot. We removed them and put them in the right spot. And then we were about to install the gray parts, which are in my box of tricks here. The other thing I did this week was, while I was waiting for prints to print, I designed myself a holder for my heat gun. That one. Because I've been putting it down on the step here, and it moves around while it's doing its cool down cycle. So that was risky. And rather than run the risk of burning the floor and everything else, I printed a hoop to stuff it into. So let's go to that, check what we're doing. So we need some M3x6. How the heck are you supposed to get that in? I thought I'd missed this dashy line. I was like, how the heck do I get that into here? But no, it goes into that hole there. So we're going to need a bunch of M3x6. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. I'm going to stash out. We're going to need a bunch. And swap over to hands plus me. Put that out of the way for now. So what we need to do is we need to put those two M3x16s are already in. We did that last week. And I need my slightly smaller Allen key. So about 5 minutes before the stream started, I had the H2V2 rebuilt because I'd had it going overnight and found it this morning, and this hole isn't quite fitting the screw. There we go, just open it up. Some of these holes have a little bit of elephant's foot in them, so the screw doesn't always fit immediately. I need to adjust my screen 1 minute. There. Then on that one, I can put Sorry, I've got two monitors here, guys, and in order for me to see you guys chatting to me, I need to arrange it so that I can see things. Oh, hi, Jex. A good experience. A good experience in terms of what, Killer Prince? I'm missing the context. Sorry, everything is a little bit scuffed, as Nero would call it. Hey, Killer, while you're around, if you're ever in a situation where you're finishing up a stream and you would end up being in a position to roll into mine, please feel free to raid in. It would be very much appreciated. I got a really good numbers boost when Jeremy and Keela raided in a couple of weeks ago. So that would be awesome. Yeah, Jex, we're going to need a late note from your mum. Turning up late's not allowed. That's what I say to my students. These screws just really don't want to go in. That will be why. If in doubt, shove an M3 size Allen key through it. There we go. Oh, it would have been a less stressful experience, Killer, if the manual was a bit more explicit and updated precisely for this truck. I wouldn't have been in such a predicament last week. I mean, I had something to pivot to, and being a teacher, you always have something to pivot to, because if you have 30 bored students, they're going to get into mischief. So you always have something to pivot to. Now, which way round does that go? The high part goes to the middle. Aha! I'm one slide ahead on my manual, which is why I'm getting confused. Let's go back to here. So I need one M3x6 to go into each of those step pieces, and they go in at a 45 degrees. So let's go back to that one. Three tardies and down on my kit is going to send you to the... Yeah, if you're late too often, I will send you to the principal, dude. That's better. It's a very slight interference fit. Right about this point, if I wasn't handing this to my kids, I could probably leave that there. It's just a very, very snug fit. Remembering, guys, that all these screws are going into PLA direct. There's no sort of heat inserts in these. So it's all about doing it by feel. Look, I'm not sure if you can see this. Maybe if I go to this one. Just very gentle push, and it's an interference fit. On my list for acquisitions, the next thing was going to be a Stream Deck to make swapping between views a lot simpler. But it looks like I'm going to need to spend that cash on the overhead camera instead. That screw isn't going in. No reason for it not going in. That's better. Again, push, interference fit, and tighten the screw. Sorry, I know some of this is black on black, and especially with that overhead camera, it's not as good as it could be. How's my volume this week? I've adjusted the gain settings a little bit. So hopefully you guys will be able to hear me much better. So we're now up to, this is instruction 13 finished. And now we're on to instruction 14. Ah, that's what those M316s are for. Now I get it. So on these parts, let's go back to hands plus me. I'm going to show you on the Meet 2 because it's easier to see. It's got better contrast. This groove here fits onto that tab there. And as you can hear, that's a nice, snug, tight interference fit all by itself. And hopefully we have the same on the other side. Yep. That is why you need to make sure that you've got all the scaling 100% on target. Otherwise you have panel gaps like a Tesla. Killer Prince, when are you going to start that HTPLA GF4 on? As much as they say it's high temp, it's still not really suitable for structural things like Vorons. PLA's hard. Please, sir, I want some more. Okay, so where are we at? We need to put those screws in. So the screws I pre-mounted before I put the wings on are now going in. Hopefully. Starting to bite, there we go. That one's not gripping as well as I would hope. I'll have to check that in a second. Now, what I can see, which you guys probably can't, is there's a very minor air gap between the two parts. So I can see that the screw is just poking out. I'm just having trouble getting it to bite into the wing panel. Take this off for a second. Now, I was watching a video by somebody who builds a lot of these trucks and cars, and he said it's a good idea on some of these parts just to chamfer the top of the hole to give the screw a bit more assistance in finding where it's supposed to locate. That's just not going in. I know what I'm going to do. I keep pulling this off camera a little bit. There we go. Ignore my blue tape. It's just what I use to try and help me stay in the frame. What I'm fighting against here is the fact that this is a build plate surface, so it's extra hard. That's better. Dropping my Allen keys everywhere like I normally do. So what I just did was I took the part off, I rimmed out the whole entrance a little bit, and all of a sudden that screw is biting like it's supposed to. Ah. There we go. Don't you hate it when the ball head on the Allen key gets stuck? For those who've not seen this before, it's a step drill. They're also really good because they have a 45-degree tip for reaming out the openings on drill holes. I just noticed I'm going to have to put screws in the front as well. So I'm probably going to have to take that first panel back off yet again, but we'll get there. Fred says my audio sounds good, so I'm hoping that that is good for everybody. Okay. To me, it feels a bit odd having put the wing panels on and then putting these extra panels on afterwards. I would have thought it would be easier to mount these and the step parts all together. And if you didn't have a ball head Allen keys for this, you would be pretty stuck. And one of my pet hates is ball head Allen keys with button head screws. That's just not engaging. It wants to, but it's not quite. Let's show you. There's an air gap. So I can see that the screw is all the way through, it's just not quite getting into the hole. I am going to check something. That's better. Don't do that at home, kids, just in case any of my students are watching. What I just did was I have a star bit in my other screwdriver, and those star bits are really good for plunging holes that aren't quite fully opened up. Everybody's gone quiet. Maybe everybody's left me. Nah, you wouldn't do that. That feels like it's grabbing now. There we go, that one's properly engaged. As I'm having a look at a couple of these printed parts, I'm starting to see that I might have been having trouble much sooner than I realized with the extruder. Because I'm seeing slight imperfections in some of these print parts that looks like under extrusion. Huh. I just can't quite get this M36 to engage properly. I think I'm going to still have access to this for a while, so what I might do is skip it and come back to it off camera. I'll fix it up later. Now, the reason I'm taking this part off is I forgot to remount the hole for the front of this panel. Okay, push this all back together. I'm on my own, aren't I? I should stop asking. I don't really want the answer. When I was setting up the stream this morning, I double-checked my subscriber count, and I'm now up to 98 subscribers, so nearly cracked the 100. The way YouTube works is normally you have to have 1,000 subscribers in most genres before you can monetize and have membership. But because of the stream type I do and because of my settings, they've they've changed that, and I only need to have 500 before I can monetize, which is going to be good. There we go. That screw's now poking free. Okay, that's all biting now. Okay, back on track. So things I need to do when I'm processing these parts ready for the stream, I need to make sure I remount these holes properly so we don't end up with this nasty creaking noise all the time. I'm going to take that part off again. Every time I take these parts off, I'm taking a bigger and bigger risk that I'm going to damage where the screws are going into. So I need to be careful about what I'm doing. Now here in Western Australia, it's a public holiday on Monday. So hopefully that'll give me time to get a lot more prep done than I normally would, because quite often I work Mondays. And then that will mean that I'm pretty much all caught up. That feels like it's biting. But it's not quite. This is just an awkward assembly to deal with. You've got little to no feel because of the angles. It's a ball head, so you could be stripping the poor button head screw out and not know. Zombie Hedgehog have this much trouble with his? Let's leave it. I'm moving on. Okay. So let's jump back to the instruction manual. It now says we have M316s to install. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. This time they should be an awful lot easier to get in because we can see what we're doing. And I can use a proper screwdriver. Straight in, no question. Now, the reason I'm doing the lower 2 screws first is just to make sure that everything's aligned. That's an M36 fill, not an M316. Now remember what I said last week, class? If you're using a big fat screwdriver, it has a bigger torque moment. So you find it much easier to strip the plastic, and I could feel I was just getting to that point where I was going to strip it. Okay, so all the M316s are in, all the M36s are in. Let's move across to the next instruction page. Installing the rear floor, and we need 4 M310s. So rear floor. I can see straight away that there's a little bit of elephant's foot in these holes, a little bit of over extrusion. Now, one thing I'm dreading is going back and looking over my shoulder in a few moments and seeing if those, if that print is actually working. Should we do that now? Let's get it out of the way, rip that Band-Aid off. I think we might be fixed. So I'm going to have to completely dismantle that other H2 and work out what was going wrong with it. So where are we at? This tray screws those. Okay. I was talking about this part the other day on the last stream. This part has a tongue and groove assembly to help it snap together. So on the inside here, there's a tongue there that fits into a groove that runs down the inside of the chassis rails. Is it the inside of the chassis rails or the outside of the chassis rails? Or is it just that it fits under the chassis rails? I think it fits under the chassis rails. There we go. And this is elephant's foot. Now you might be going, how can that possibly have elephant's foot? This piece and this piece, well, we're looking, that piece and that piece are two different pieces. So the surface that I'm using the deburring tool on is actually a print surface face. I think it's worth me spending a few extra moments on this piece to make sure it fits, because this is one of the detail pieces. Adrian, so much DNA on that mouse. What? I'm sure there are many guys in their Dungeons and Dragons. I don't have DNA on my mouse. What are you talking about? The only thing my mouse comes into contact with is my epithelial cells. Thank you very much. Ow! Yes, I've just taken a small cut into the surface of my thumb, so I'm probably going to have blood everywhere. Anybody who faints on my stream, sucks to be you. When I decided I wanted to become a teacher, I spoke to a bunch of friends who have been in the profession, and the advice that was the clincher for me was, do you want to teach high school, or do you want to teach the younger kids? And I was like, I really don't know. I think I might have to get a Band-Aid for that thumb in a minute. See how it goes. Just take 30 seconds while it scabs over. And it came down to, do you want to clean up pee and poop, or do you want to clean up blood? Because that's basically the difference between the two sets of teaching. This is so close, it's just not quite fitting. Now, anybody who's looking at printing a 3D sets kit, I strongly encourage you to join the Facebook community. The guys on there are artisans. They take days to prepare each piece in some cases. And they are a fountain of knowledge. There are some weirdos on there. That always is in that sort of community. And there was one guy who was spamming this book for no apparent reason. It wasn't even really relevant. He's like, you must be new to 3D printing. You should read my book. And I'm like, no, I'm not new to 3D printing. No, I don't want to spend $20 on Amazon for your PDF. All I'm looking for is a little bit of assistance with why I can't find these files. File. Remembering, boys and girls, you always do the cutting action with a file away from yourself. Nothing to do with safety, that's just how they cut. This just isn't fitting. I think I'm going to have to reprint it like I did the side steps. And now I know we can move on without that part, so we probably will do. Roady frame right, roady frame left. So let's go to the overhead for a moment, and actually let's go to Chrome. So what we're going to do is I'm going to reprint the grey piece, and I'm pretty sure that I'm running into issues from where the extrusion was just not quite right, and if I print it now, I think I'm going to have a lot less trouble. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to fit the rear frame parts, which I may have to remove to then refit the grey, but it allows us to move on with the build a bit. So M3/8 this time, not 6s. Put the 6s away so I don't get them confused. 1, 2, 3. No, it's just need 2. Let's go back to hands plus me and go overhead for a few moments. Put that to one side. M3/8 goes in from the outside and goes in under here somewhere. Reaming out the top of the hole. Just doing the action with my fingertips so I can feel it getting tighter. And stop. Now seeing the way these two parts key together, I know exactly where to file on that one. And on this one. M3/8 there. Ream out that hole there. Helps if I ream the correct side. Now, I've not been following chat while I've been concentrating. I'll get back to you guys in a second. Clownhammer! It's not a project unless there's blood and swearing. Yeah, well, I've got the blood. There was lots of swearing last week, so we're right on track for a project. I'm just going to get rid of some of these shavings. Okay, so we have the extra extensions on the frame installed. So those pieces are now installed. And next, we're going to join the two subframes together. Which way around? Slopey part goes to the back. All of those screw holes seem to line up pretty well, but I am going to chamfer the ends of these parts just to give me a bit of wiggle room just in case. My pressure advance isn't perfect on that machine, so there is a tiny bulge on some of these corners. Aha, that's better. I can see chat a bit more. One of the frames in OBS that allows me to do the chat has never worked, and all of a sudden it started working. So strange things are happening. Right. Now what I'm doing here is all of these holes line up on both the inner and the outer part. And I'm just making sure that all those holes reasonably line up before I start and that they're all reasonably open so that I don't have to spend ages trying to force these screws in like I did on the front. Let's go back to hands. So I'm just opening up the ends of the holes. And subframe 1 and 2 put together. Clownhammer, what's the good word? Well, last week's stream was awful from my point of view. I sucked. I didn't do anywhere near as much prep work as I probably should have done. And I paid for it. I ended up having to pivot to other stuff. Oh, that will be why that's not engaging. Wrong size screw. It's an M38 on that one. But not the others. Okay. Now, depending on how this replacement extruder goes, one of two things is going to happen. If it keeps working and I have no more hassles, we'll continue next week with the truck. If it's sucking in all sorts of ways that make my life difficult, then next week's stream will be us rebuilding the Ender 5 with a completely new extruder so that we can then print things much more reliably. I've got an MGN9 rail sitting there that I've been waiting to put onto it for quite some time. So that'll be one part of that upgrade. And then I need to decide if I'm going to do an A4T tool head on it or just a Dragon Burner. I've got the parts, I think, for an A4T, and I would like to give it a shot. So let's face it, Dragon Burner's getting a little bit long in the tooth. That M36 is vibrating somewhere. Yeah, like I was saying, Dragon Burner is getting a little long in the tooth. But it's still a very good tool head and it'll be a massive upgrade over what I'm currently working with. Or if I go for A4T, which I have the parts for, I'm pretty confident in, but I need to check. You'd be interested in seeing an A4T. Now, one of the guys who was heavily involved in the A4T development is an Aussie guy. So I might reach out to him and see if he's available to join us if we go that way. I'm concentrating so hard here, Clownhammer, I didn't work out what the pun was, sorry. So now we need 3 on each side of those M316s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's double check which ones we want. We want the one, two, okay. I'm just double checking because there's a whole plethora of locations these screws could go into. I need to skip the first 2 holes, those 2, and I need to put M316s in the next 3 on each side. Skip the first 2. Now, Mrs. Maker is home sick today. She was in Singapore partying all weekend with her friends. But she's come back and it sounds like she may have picked up the dreaded disease on her travels. But rat tests are hard to find here. So I'm going to have to hit up a pharmacy later so that she can do the test. The reason rats are so hard to find in Western Australia, we barely had any cases. My mum and stepdad were like cases 7 and 8 in the entire state because they were in the UK when it all started to go down. And they were on the last flight into Perth before they closed our borders. And they literally did close the borders for the state. In order to get into Western Australia, you had to have a valid reason. And it meant that we had a relatively free and easy time. There was nearly no lockdowns. I think out of the entire time, we had 14 or 15 days of lockdown. And then because we were so heavily locked down, as travelers that came in with permission came in and they were infected, it meant we had hospital facilities to be able to look after them properly and keep them out of the community. There were, of course, the naysayers were like, we don't need to be locked down. I want to go to Bali for my holiday. But it kept the economy going, and Western Australia pretty much propped up the Australian economy and kept us out of recession as a result. I thought that was blood for a second, but it's not. It's where the fluff from a red milk got on it. I'm just checking that part, and it's still looking very nice. So I think, for now at least, we're onto something, and replacing that extruder was the right way to go. Okay, let's jump across. I've got those 6 screws in. So now we need some M3x20s, and we need the fuel tank left inner and right inner. We need 2 M320s. I only have shiny ones, but that's okay, because they're going to be hidden away as far as I know anyway. I know I printed these parts, but I can't see them. I know I have printed them. That's not it. I cannot find them. Check the back of my desk where things get thrown. No. Check behind the PowerPoints, because that's where things get thrown. Nope. Sorry, that's confusing me. Apparently the United States just cancelled funding for bird flu mRNA vaccine. I guess we are pro-pandemic. I'm going to try and not get into the US politics if I can, but 40% of your population are morons for voting for him? What I think we might need to do is I know I've printed those parts. I know I have. Let me just check I didn't put them with the tires or something silly. Nope, they're not with the tires. Cover that up because it's beta gear. Maybe when I was tidying up, I threw them away, not thinking about it. That's not the end of the world. So that says we need to put those screws in there and go forward. Front bumper. So let's just recap for one moment and get back to, and then let's go to just me. Recap where we're up to. I need to put 2 screws in here properly because they're not currently fitting right. I need to reprint these fuel tank parts because they've gone walkabout. Don't know where they are. Keela! How are you, Keela? Sorry if I yelled in everybody's ears. Please thank Jeremy for his kind words in my YouTube post. I do know that he's available to help whenever I need him. He's been completely awesome throughout my entire getting streaming process. It looks like we're supposed to be fitting the fuel tanks. Can't. So, need to properly install those M36s. That one I've just realized isn't screwed in, so let's get that screwed in. Same with this one. I got sidetracked with those other front screws. So, need to redo those M36s. Turning it over, need to reprint the 2 fuel tank inners because they've gone walkabout. That I can still do. Oh, and I need to reprint that part because it's just not quite fitting. Good thing is the fuel tank inners and this part I can print in silver so they match. So that will work. Yep, I'm going to move forward and we're going to move on with the build. Okay, license plate, chassis 2, chassis 3. Rear floor, add blue tank and air tank. So let's have a look at this next section. Okay. How do I know that I have definitely printed the tanks? They were printed with this part. So I know I've printed them. No idea where they've gone. Let's put that in there. That is the add blue tank it was just talking about. This was one of my first prints with that silver filament, and I had to adjust the retraction on it just slightly. Mrs. Clownhammer messaged you to see if you'd recovered. Now, I am working on maybe getting to Smurf next year. Whether it'll happen or not comes down to finances and whether we think the kids are ready to fly, because it will be a case of we fly as a family and then I come to Smurf for a couple of days while my wife hangs out with my relatives, which you definitely won't mind doing. My relatives and Kirsten get on really well, but yeah. So it says I need a front bumper. Front bumper. It says we need the skid plate. Now, I do not have the number plate printed yet. That is a project that is in and of itself a little different. I'm planning on doing custom number plates like Steve Builds did. So you're coming to Smurf, are you, Keela? Please tell me you are. So in order to fit the number plates, you need to do that. So I'm not going to do the number plates. I'm going to print that this week. I'm going to put the skid plate on the bottom. So that way, let's go. So let's show you how these two plates mate together. Basically, screw those two parts together is the next job. So that's what we're going to do. M3 by 6. Put the chassis away. Can I make a suggestion, Keela? If you're even remotely thinking about doing it, get your passport organized now. The last thing you want to do is decide at the last minute that you're going and then have to pay expedited passport fees and then expedited visa fees. Don't do that to yourself. And for any of you US people who are planning on going to Smurf, be aware that they've changed the visa requirements into the UK and into a lot of Europe. Knock you out. Now, it's an international flight, Keela. On international flights, the alcohol tends to be included in the ticket fare. So you don't want to be knocked out. You want to make sure you get your money's worth out of the ticket price. And especially if you're not traveling with kids, that sounds like a good opportunity to me. So you have got passport, awesome. The other trick that people get, the other trap people get falling into is most countries need you to have at least 6 months left on your passport to let you enter. Now, I'm just prepping this part ready for mounting. Before I realized I needed to add my own bridge supports, I printed this part, and it's bridged okay, but there's a couple of loose strands, so I'm making sure that they're ready. So, where we're at, mounted the skid plate. You guys didn't really need to see that up close and personal, I didn't think. So, skid plate is mounted. Can't mount, let's go back to that one. Can't mount the number plate as yet because it's not printed, but it will be printed this week. Now I've got the headphone stands. Oh, defrost parts. What am I reading? Now we have this whole juggly assembly for mounting it. Now I know those parts are in here. Spare steps, get rid of those. Hinge hood C. Hinge hood B. Hopefully this isn't rattling in you guys' ears too much. That looks an awful lot like hinge hood A. So C, B, and find another B part. B part. Let's have a quick look at this manual one more time. So, hinge hood D we still need to find. Throwing all of these parts into this big tub might have been a mistake because it's going to make life hard to find things. There we go, hinge hood D. So let's have a look. A, B, C, D. And now we need a whole bunch of M3/8s to put this all together. Oh, you guys have got an improved passport process. I know it sucked for a long time. I've got a few friends who live I've got friends who live all over the States, and yeah, one of them was looking to get out during COVID, and the processing times were like months. Nick, Italy and Greece, definitely. I'd be in for Italy and Greece. We should do a tour if we all go. Do Smurf and then go on a big tour around the place. Mrs. Maker would definitely be up for that. Now, there's a little bit of elephant's foot and a little bit of brim still stuck on a couple of these parts. So I'm just cleaning them up with a file briefly. I did most of my travel around Europe with school growing up in the UK. When after I got married to Mrs. Maker, we did the trip around Europe. We did UK to visit all my family, and then Paris, some other parts of France, and then on to Amsterdam. But she couldn't get enough leave to take much more than that. Thing to know about Rome especially, full of pickpockets. I was having a talk to the vet yesterday when we took one of the dogs for a checkup, and he had the same experience. Now, let's have a look at this. That's going to need elephant's foot scraping off. Hey, Brent. Now, seeing as we've got a whole bunch of people in chat, time to do my spiel. If you want to support me, I'm not able to get monetized just yet with YouTube, but you can, like Brad has done, support me by jumping on my fourth wall. Link is in the description, and buy yourself a hoodie and or t-shirt or stickers or whatever you feel so inclined. A few bucks here, a few bucks there, all adds up to making it easier for me to afford to buy the filaments and all that sort of stuff. Speaking of which, Keela, you still haven't sent me the details, so I can't send you your hoodie. So, all the elephant's foot seems to be gotten rid of. I'm going to follow this order of operations, I think. I am going to do the parts C onto parts D, which is the bottom. Then I'm going to put parts B onto part C. And then I'm going to attach part A. I think it's going to work best to work bottom to top because of the size and the strength of these parts. I think it's best to work with the most robust first. So this one first. And we need M3 by 8s. Got 2 already. Hi, Stephen. You haven't said hi yet. Now, what I'm going to do is, if Keela doesn't get her act together, I'm just going to contact Jeremy and get Jeremy to organize it with me. And then if she gets the wrong size, it's not on me, it's on Jeremy. Now, there's no directions on how tight to make this, so I'm planning on leaving this just a little bit loose to allow for adjustment. That one on there. Can't see the link in the description. If it's not there, have a look at my channel description and I will add it later. Don't do that to Jeremy. Oh, come on. Can you imagine the chatter on one of their streams? And Phil and Jeremy, they organized me this hoodie, and then Jeremy ordered it, and it was like 5 times too big for me. And then the next stream we see Jeremy wearing it because he ordered it the right size for him. Right. So, bottom part is assembled. Now we need more M3/8s. If you did it on purpose, there'd be chatter. Well, Keela, the only way to prevent all this happening is for you to send me a DM and we can work all this out. This is what I was worried about. Getting the screw into such a tiny part and having it stay square. There we go. Is this like Homer and the bowling ball? Clan Hammer learned to just get 2 hoodies. Didn't want to be a Voron widow anymore. I try to be as fair as I can when it comes to my printing. I don't think Mrs. Maker would consider herself to be a printer widow. I do sometimes disappear in here at the most inopportune times as far as she's concerned, but sometimes a print's finished and you've got to start printing the next one. Speaking of which, somebody remind me at the end of stream, you did tell him to say you want a hot tub. Hot tubs are a pain in the backside. They're like pools. You end up pouring half your pocket money into them in chemicals and then barely use them. Now, I'm just having a look at this next piece. This last part here says we need to put that on with the raised parts pointing upwards on the outside of parts B, which seems to line up. Yep, close enough. And we need even more M3/8s. Could have a hot tub with all the dollars he spent. Here's the thing, Keela. Would you rather go to Europe with all of us, or would you rather have a hot tub? I forgot to swap back to me. Sorry, guys. Now, one of the things I think I'm going to try during the week is chucking the OBSBot up on the overhead and then maybe bringing the DSLR down here for the close-up work, if I can get that all working. That might give me a bit more leeway until I can get a second OBSBot. This feels like putting Meccano together. I'm guessing Clownhammer is old enough to have actually played with real-life Meccano, and maybe Steve Mercado. Everybody, oh, and Brad definitely would be. So, this contraption that is the hinge for the hood is all put together. Now, if there's trips on the line, you'll definitely go for the trips. That sounds like a better way to do it. Clownhammer Meccano. The metal strips with the nuts and bolts, kind of like Lego Technic, but its predecessor. I'm of the generation where Meccano was just being phased out and Lego Technic was really becoming the king of the space. Nick knows about Meccano. Meccano might not have been as big in the US. I know it was very big in Europe and the UK. In the US, you had all those chemistry sets with like real uranium in them and stuff. Now, what I've been doing is just putting the two mounting screws into place so that I know which way around this all goes. That needs to go backwards. Now, this is going to be impossible to see on that camera, so let's go to that camera, and you can see my dodgy bridging. There's two mounting screws right in the bottom there that this assembly is going to mount onto. You know Meccano. Sorry guys, I keep forgetting to switch. Apparently there is an AI bot coming which can automatically switch OBS to the camera with the most action going on, or the scene with the most action going on, which could be fun, or it might be complete garbage like the AI follow me features on the OBSBot. I still have my Erector set and my Radio Shack 150. Oh, I had the 121-in-1 electronics kit. It was about this size, so roughly the size of an A4 piece of paper. And it had these little springs in it that were wired on the back and connected to like LEDs and silicon crystals and all sorts of other stuff. So you could build your circuits. That was fun. That was my gateway drug to all this sort of stuff. Brad's definitely old enough. I wasn't being rude, dude. Right. Let's have a look. Now. Now, let's have a quick look at this instruction manual and see if we can do the next part or not. Yes, we could in principle. Okay, so let's have a look at this. The bumper screws on with 2 screws. Let's go back to me and what's going on in my pause. Bumper fits there. Sorry, the focus is going to be a little bit out because this is quite a long piece. Bumper fits on straight on the front. There is enough room for me to get to the M36s that we're having difficulty with and fix those. And if I pre-install the number plates screws, then there's enough room to do those up with everything assembled. So yes, we can do this step. So let's just go back a couple of steps in the manual for a second. And it's M3/8 for the number plates. I think because of the bridging, I'm actually going to have to use M310s. Oh, so was this basically the same thing, the clown hammer, the spring-loaded connections? I had that kit well into my teens because I would prototype on it for projects I was building. One of the ways I made pocket money in high school was there was a copy protection feature built into VHS recordings called Macrovision. And basically it worked by, at the beginning of each NTSC and PAL video screen in a recording, there'd be a tone that signaled this is the beginning of the next screen. And the way they would make it relatively difficult to duplicate VHS and then later DVD was to have that signal be very, very weak. So there was a kit that I found that you could modify to actually boost that one part of the signal. It was actually designed to intercept and interrogate subtitles that were being broadcast and then displayed on the screen. But if you modified it, you could actually ignore the subtitles and you could just use it to boost that one tone, which meant that you could make legitimate backups for personal consumption of your VHS. So it was extra pocket money during high school. I have nightmares about M3/8. They are everywhere. I don't think you've seen this, Steve. So I will show you how I keep things under control. Not that one, that one. It's not quite Steve Build's levels of tidy and neat, but I'm getting there. Also, never let a toddler help you put the stickers on the drawers because they don't go on straight. So, the screws are just sticking out just enough. I used coax to record VHS backups. Yeah. especially in Australia, they were very hot on making sure that duplication was difficult. So I'm just catching up in the instruction manual to where we are. Had to skip all of that, had to skip all of that. Bumper, bumper, bumper installation, M312s. I think this is the first M312s. Now, the hard part for me this week is going to be keeping my daughter away from wanting to help me build this while you guys aren't around. Because she knows that this truck is being built, because she helped me pick colors. She helped me narrow it down and be sure that it's colors that she didn't mind. So, LimeWire, I remember that. The thing you had to be careful with LimeWire was people could see what was on your drives already. So it meant that if you weren't careful, you're basically advertising everything that you had acquired that way back in the day. Now, the way this bumper locates is actually really quite neat. Let me show you. I'm having a little bit of difficulty getting it to fit, so I need to clean out these holes anyway. On the truck itself, there's a sort of cut-off pyramid shape to help it locate, and there's a matching dent in each side of the part. Yes, I'm going to have difficulty this week keeping my daughter from wanting to assemble this. She's 3.5, and she loves building things. We have these magnetic building kits, which is like squares and triangles and stuff, and she builds huge, what she calls castles out of it. And she has a little toolkit of her own that some good friends bought her. And she brought the toolkit into my workshop the other day and goes, "Daddy, I help you build truck now?" I'm like, "Sorry, I have to do that when you're at school with all the nerds online on my streams." And she gave me this very sad look. So you guys are breaking a little girl's heart. Just saying. Radio Shack Skylab. Don't remember that one. I did have the Radio Shack TRS-80 computer as a kid. I think we were talking about that on somebody's stream the other day. Yeah, the TRS-80 computer where it didn't even come with like a computer, any way to load the games. You had to supply your own tape deck. You had to supply your own tape deck and find some means of connecting it to the TRS-80. My daughter, 3.5. All right, that screw's finally bitten. Maybe one day, if things all line up and I'm not too exhausted after a day with the kids, I will do streaming of my telescope. The Tandy TRS-80 is basically the exact same unit, Brad. So yeah, I have science grade telescope equipment here that I use for a hobby and taking astrophotography photos. So maybe because that works quite nicely for you guys, time zone wise in the US, I'll do a couple of streams my nighttime while I'm doing the astrophotography. Because half of the cupboard space in this workshop is actually devoted to holding the telescope gear and keeping it clean and tidy and away from the kids. If yours is like mine, she likes to help us in the end. As long as she ends up scalping the finished product, she doesn't care. Now, I don't know if you can hear this or not, and I'm trying to talk over it where I can. This screw is going in very noisily. And I'm not too worried about stripping the thread on this particular part because this thread goes in so deep that it's not really a big deal. The order of operations on some of these parts really doesn't make a lot of sense. But we'll go with it. Having read the instructions for the Rocky truck, now I've got access. Now I realize I have access to both trucks. They build that one in a very different order. Oh, I should probably bring a few people who joined late up to speed. I had all sorts of trouble getting working out what was going wrong with the manual, because the manual didn't actually match the printed parts plates. It turns out that when you buy the Roady, you also get access to the Rocky truck, which has a whole bunch of the components in it. So when you buy the Roady, you actually get the Rocky free. Whereas if you buy the Rocky, you don't get the Roady. Really weird setup, but I'm going to take the win. But the instructions don't explicitly call out that half the parts you need for the Roady dumper are in the Rocky file sets. Yeah, it was confusing, and I ended up having to speak to the people who make the 3D sets files. And I'm just going to clean up some of this bad bridging because it keeps breaking off and getting in the way. That razor blade. So there we go. Instructions more of guidelines. Yeah. So what have we got? We've got the front bumper mounted. Let's jump to the instruction manuals for you guys as well. Front bumper built. The hinge assembly for the hood built. Bumper mounted. This is where we now screw in the AdBlue tank. But we can't because they mount to the fuel tank parts, which I think I've thrown in the bin accidentally. Let's have a look at the next set of pieces. Okay. Next is building ball joints. Now I know I've got those ball joints. Before I do that, let's tidy some of this up. One of the things I constantly say to my students is, don't work in a dirty workspace. Mostly because if you get swarf in a mechanism, it makes life really difficult. One ball joint. Two ball joints. And they insert into random piece that it doesn't tell me. Arms and ball joints. Let's see. They're the wishbones. We're probably going to need those shortly. That looks like it might be what we're looking for, but it's not the right shape. Let's go back so you can see what I'm looking at. Oh, so they just insert in straight into the... they insert into the wishbones. I thought they'd insert into a bar. Now, I did read ahead and spoiled for myself the joys of what was upcoming. So let's have a look. We need to make sure that the lip here is pointing upwards. And then we press the wide part up into the ball joint. Let's go to that one. Sorry guys, and I'm bouncing you around a little bit, but I'm trying to get you the best possible view. Now, I'm not going to be silly. I'm going to just double check that that hole is chamfered enough to get a screw into, because I suspect these are going to be pretty difficult to deal with. So, wishbone, ball joint. This is what you needed on the stream the other day, Keela. Hemostat. Press that up against that surface so it doesn't fall out. Get my fingers out of the way. And very gently press. And hope it doesn't just crush. Now, I think these ball joints were actually printed when the extruder was doing strange things. So whether they'll stand up is anybody's guess. That doesn't feel like it's pressed home enough. Yeah, I was right. It popped straight out. Do it the other way around so you can see it a bit better. That seems to be pressed home properly now. So there, hopefully that's in place. And rinse and repeat a second time. And I do have a sneaking suspicion I'm going to need to reprint these. They just don't feel quite right, but I will play with them off screen. Oh, that one felt like it went in more. Oh no. Broke it. So I'm going to have to reprint that wishbone. Not a big deal. Sigh. Okay, so let's add that to my list. I've got a whiteboard that I have on my wall, and it contains all sorts of stuff that I need to have on my list. Reprint, grey floor, which we were talking about earlier, and wishbone. I'd show you my list, but I can't because it's got all the details of all the beta stuff I'm working on too. So, back to me. So, we are almost at the end of my stream window, which is pretty good timing. Now, where are we at? We have put together a good chunk of the truck. Let's go to that one because it's a better camera and have a good look around. We've got the front hinges on, ready for the hood assembly and the engine installation. We've got the side steps on and all of the wing panels. We've built the rear section of the truck. We don't have the number plate yet installed, but we've got the screws pre-mounted to make that possible after the fact. Underneath, that's almost ready to go. We managed to mount the front bumper properly there. Where we failed, we need to reprint the wishbones. I'm going to reprint them. I think I'm going to do them all again, but I might do them in ABS. Reason for doing them in ABS is they're a little bit more flexible. I'll probably keep the PLA cores, the balls, but I'll print the actual joints in ABS to give that a little bit more flex. That should actually make it a much better fit, I think. And from there, I'll have to work on making sure I have those fuel tank parts printed out again that I've lost. Hands plus me, just me. There we go. I'll have to reprint the fuel tank parts that have gone walkabouts and make sure that I'm all up to date. Let's have another look at that print because it's looking good from here over my shoulder on the screen. And all that under extrusion issue appears to be gone. Just for those who missed the beginning of the stream, let's show you what was going on. This was my first attempt. It was showing these awful discolored stripes up here. You can see. Now ignore the shiny spot. That was me just blasting it with a hot air gun just to see if it was stress marks. But the light stripes didn't go away, which told me that it was under extrusion. From there, it got worse and worse and worse and worse until we ended up with the bird's nest that you can see right through. It's very impressive as a print, but completely useless for what we're doing. So just before stream started, I completely replaced the extruder on my ender with an exactly identical one, but obviously one that's working for me. And it seems to be doing the job for now. So we'll go with that. Thank you for joining me. I have been Phil. I am the Down Under Maker, and it's time for me to hop on out of here. I will see you all next week. Please like, please subscribe, and please support me with some fourth wall if you can. And I will see you all next week. Thank you for coming.